the Trails Committee and Brandon are, and as Robin had said, very optimistic to get 500,000 for FY '27. That 634,000 will come down to 134,000. At that point, we'll be far enough along to know, do we bond it? Or do we go to a special town meeting that's coming up and ask if we take the 134 out of the open space reserve fund transfer? Or do they get building this project and realize that there are some ways that they can cut some costs and we don't need $134,000? So there's all sorts of reasons why there's a very good chance we won't even need to bond the $634,000. Overall, the project brings tourists and residents from the commercial tourist district. I happen to like to go to Rapscallion, full disclosure, every Sunday for lunch with my family. And to be able to think that you could leave there, walk across, head over the boardwalk, walk through the Stallion Hill Trails and make an afternoon of it. And I'm a resident. So I think that the businesses are going to benefit by it. But ultimately, for me, selfishly, the most important thing for me is my family and my fellow residents. Above and beyond that, yeah, I'm a little selfish. I want the businesses to do well and thrive. I want them to have something that they can market on their Facebook page that brings more people in. Because in the end, selfishly, we do better on our taxes because of what Robin described. They have to put some of this money that they're gathering through our tips and taxes on that bill into our community. So I think it's a really excellent project. I'm biased because I was schlepping through the woods 12 years ago with a couple of other residents, and I've watched it go the whole way. And I'm very proud of the WPI students. Yeah, their numbers were not on, but I wish you could have been at that presentation because it was impressive to see that generation caring and really putting their thought, energy, and brains into what could be something that we can all benefit from.
So if you have, based on this report, you have $1.274 million in undesignated fund balance, right? If this is taking 1.2, it leaves you 74,000 for everything else you've got funded, and you're well over that. So how do you fund it?
And is Barbara still on the line? Because she is our expertise when it comes to.
So Kevin, part of what's going to happen this year is there is $500,000 that's going to be closed out from two different projects due to two things. One, project going out to bid and coming in lower than what was originally budgeted, and two, grant funding that was received that reduced total project costs. So that, I missed what number you were talking about or what you just said, but the undesignated balance goes down to 274,000, not 74,000, or 223,000. Which number are you talking
I'm
about?
looking at the. Oh, that's after.
That's today.
That's the one that came today.
Yes.
Well, I was just looking at the report out of last year that says this is what they started at this year.
This is what.
Okay, so
This happens. This is where
with the numbers that Penny just gave you, that will drop the undesignated fund balance down to 223,129
Right.
after town meeting, and it drops the open space account to 390,784, of which though we're going to immediately at year end close out at a minimum, which we're going to have the funding, the new, all the funding that we collected this year, which is not reflected in this yet because we don't do that until we close. And it's going to reflect the $500,000 going back into the CPA fund. And I do have those two projects that are closing out. Maybe Tom knows them off the top of his head because I do not. But give me one sec. So it is 469A Bridge and Engineering Design. That is going to be a release of $90,000 in funds. And then the 1 and 9 River Road construction is a release of $410,000.
Okay.
And if I could just piggyback onto what she just said, so we really tune in and hear what she just said about that $500,000 that's going to automatically go on to that 223, is because the Trails Committee again, got a grant. So we asked town meeting voters, and just like this article says, that we want to borrow up to, and then if a grant comes in, it's going to go back into the fund, legally it has to. Well, that's exactly what happened. And they told us at that town meeting, we're really optimistic about this $500,000 grant. And every time they've said they're optimistic, we have gotten it. There has been other times where they've said, we're really hopeful, but this and that. Years ago, it wasn't as, it didn't seem like we were getting as many grants as we are now, but somehow they're working their magic, and 500,000 of what was just talked about is because of grant money.
I got two questions. One's a big picture and then specific to the funding. The big picture,
I give it back, that's yours.
you're looking for another 15 miles of trail to get to the 50 target. And you have a particular plan as to where those 15 miles are. We're just going to keep looking for opportunities to add 15 miles. But, and related to that is, is there another $10 million worth of improvements to get there, or is it all small little stuff and this is the last big ticket item?
From our perspective, so we're not trying to jam trail onto property that isn't appropriate. So we're not going to jam 15 miles of trail onto property that just to get to a 50-mile number, right? We have, 2 or 3 miles that, actually 3 or 4 miles that'll be built on the Riverlands that are already planned. We'll finish sections of the Grand Trunk in town, and some of the other properties have trails that are a natural fit to build out. So we can get to that number. But the part of it, though, is back to the previous meeting when I talked about the backbone, connecting, end to end from East Brimfield to Westville, is what we're going to call that backbone trail in town. And, it will take us years to get the state to repaint that bridge so you have a bike lane over the bridge and so on. But we will be piecemealing along the way to connect end to end in town and have trail access for people across the different communities. And so we're going to, there's no we don't see a big project that would be like this anywhere in our future. It's more
Following the trail master.
yes, following the trail master
But you don't
plan.
have a specific thing. Okay, I'm fine.
There's a trail
So,
master.
If I can jump in and add to that a little bit,
Please, Tom.
and to also address, and I apologize, there was a gentleman that spoke earlier about asking if we had a big picture price of what we needed to do, and the answer to that particular question is yes, we do. A couple years ago, through community preservation, and we received the grant, we hired an engineer to perform a feasibility study of completing the Grand Trunk Trail section from Farquhar Road to the Riverlands. And that's the biggest chunk left to build and the most challenging to build. That's a little over, at the time, that was a little, just about 2 miles of trail left. And his cost estimate came in at $4.5 million for that 2-mile section, because it does include wetland crossings, it includes issues with rare habitat, endangered species, and the various things. We are chipping away at that. As an example, at an earlier meeting, you approved the spending of money out of CPC to do a survey of a section of.
Did you hang up on him?
With the various
Survey for the
department
Grand
heads,
Trunk Trail.
we can put together a recommended route of the trail, so then we can start moving forward. But we are piecemealing that, as Brandon said, and sometimes when we piecemeal it, that gets a little frustrating to some people, and it takes time. And so you have new members on the finance committee, and I clearly understand they can't know everything on every project that's going on in town, but we have the feasibility study, we have the town's master plan, we have our recreational trails plan, we have the commercial tourist district plan, We have our open space plan. All of those have been updated or created in the last 10 or 12 years, and every one of them had building this bridge, this trail, this connection in them as goals for the town to do. So through those plan approval processes, there was public meetings, there were public hearings, there were charrettes, asking the townspeople for their input. So we're just following some of them, all of the master planning that we've been doing over the last 10 or 12 years. This is, and those documents exist that are available for anyone to, read, review, and refresh themselves on, and on any of our trail initiatives, because that's what we're doing, is we're working towards those plans, which, has been mentioned a number of times, that 50-mile goal. Yes, that's in one of the plans, and that's one of the items we're working towards. So, we're doing what the townspeople have over not just 1 or 2 years, but consistently over a relatively long period, said this is what we'd like to see.
And can I,
If I could, Kevin, if I could just follow, because can I jump in for a sec?
Go ahead.
So I think it's important to piggyback what Tom's talking about, because Tom is talking about the will of the public based on all of this input that we have.
Right.
And I think looking at, we talk about taxpayer money, and you all know we've talked about, I believe in the importance of stabilization funds, and I believe in the importance of free cash, and how I don't like that we have to spend too much free cash. That's what we do with our operating budget. That's our savings account. And for anybody, and the reason I want to do this is not just for you all on Finance Committee, you understand municipal budgeting a little bit more and closer, but the public may not necessarily, if people are watching, understand fully. CPC money is a little different. I think a CPC, like your Christmas club, it's money you put away with a plan to spend it. And you know what you probably are going to spend it on, and you don't want to just blow it wantonly. You put it aside for very specific purposes, but it's meant to be spent. It's not, and again, obviously you don't want to deplete it and then have a project come along that you can't afford, so you do it prudently. But it is not like a stabilization fund. We shouldn't be sitting on large pots of CPC money. That's not what the spirit of that program was for. That's not why the state sends matching money. It is meant to be spent. So when we say, well, it's the taxpayers are paying for this, yes, absolutely they are. But it is not somehow depleting the general fund. It does not damage our fiscal stability. I think it's really important, because we're talking about a big ticket item. But that big ticket item is not somehow a detriment to our operating budget, to our bond ratings, to the stability of our town fiscally on the other end. And I just want to make that distinction for anybody who might be
And
watching.
I agree with you there, but I like the point we made in the last time we just brought this discussion, is this is still money collected from a taxpayer, right? They have to figure out, where they're gonna come up with the $300 surcharge that shows up with their property tax to pay for it.
yes, but could I
Agreed.
just follow
But
up
it's
on something
money-
that Robin said? It's very important to think of exactly what she said. This is money that is earmarked for these categories, and it's not to be saved, it's to be spent.
I got you, but I didn't get to
Also, I
finish
want to
my
make a very
point.
important point, that the reason it hasn't come up sooner is we have had big projects that we needed CPA funds for. We had this building, we had center office, we had the senior center. There's all in the timing, and the timing is right now for this, because there's grants available that we're going to aggressively go after. We have the money, because grant money is coming back, and we have the ability to fund the project
I
right now.
agree, the reworking of this funding has made it a much more palatable project. It's much more acceptable the way it's been reworked now. But where my point was going is that you've got people who, $364 on their taxes. We've had many people, I get it all the time. What are we getting for our tax dollars? We're paying a lot in tax dollars. And this is one place where you could change the surcharge from 3% to 1%, or just revoke the CPA and give people back something.
Can I answer to that? Okay, so the minute you go from 3% to 2% or 1%, you're not 166 out of 200.
Right, it starts all over again.
Yeah, you do. It's based on the surcharge you take in, what you're doing with your CPA funds, filing your paperwork that has to happen with DOR. You check all those boxes, you do all those things, And over the course of these years, we've collected over $5 million. So if you start chipping away, or let's say, let's get rid of the act altogether, would you ever look at your portfolio and say, you know what, we're going to cut, Llewellyn? We really don't need this one. Yeah, we get 36% back on our investment this year, but that's the one we're going to cut. You would never. Who would? We went to the ballot box. Somebody thought it would be a good idea to repeal this act. We brought out all the numbers and all the facts, and you can't get another bang for your buck any better than this.
Okay.
So I guess you led into what my second question was, which ultimately leads to, is there an action for us to take here tonight or not? You mentioned rework, and I thought I was hearing that there was some change coming here, but the
It
way I
is,
see it
it's in
is,
your warrant. The recommendation of the select board is, right, is the new number, and actually the language in the warrant is different. The numbers are different.
2,134,000?
Right, and so
see.
right, and the breakdown is different. It used to be, they were gonna borrow 1.2 million, and now they're gonna take
Gotcha.
1.2 million from the Community Preservation Act.
But you're still looking for $2 million for a bridge.
Grants received.
And maybe you just don't spend it all because you get grants. That's a big number. It's the same big number that came to us the last time.
Oh, it's 500,000.
So, had this come back and said, we're looking for, take the $600,000 and borrow out, $1.5 million to come from those two funds with the expenditure
It is.
of those funds,
50.
tied to you receiving grants or other funding mechanisms to fully support the project. I would have found that a little bit more palatable than the $2 million here. And I appreciate Tom's answers to the big question. We don't really know what it's going to cost for the next 15 miles. Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's $100 million, who knows? You don't have a full plan, but to connect Farquhar Road to Route 15 there is a $4 million project for those two things. I'd be more inclined to put $2 million of monies towards that type of project to connect those two pieces in there versus this little bridge that's a spur off of there. So I don't think I've heard anything here to change my view on the recommendation here, but if others are swayed to reopen our position and do something different, I'll yield to them. It's not a public hearing, I don't need a whole lot of input.
Can a resident speak?
No.
Okay.
It's public access period, they can. Huh? Well, you know what? If you want to speak, come to the microphone and identify yourself and the address.
So your implication is that this was done intentionally to obfuscate? You think they did it?
Ann Peterson, Farquhar Road. The gentleman on the end there and yourself who were saying about this is not complete, you can only get to the bridge from the Riverlands. Well, the Westville to Farquhar Road is complete. They are going to complete Farquhar Road to 84 this year. It's only a short bike ride from 84 to the Riverlands, down Sturbridge Village Access Road, therefore to the bridge. That's nothing for a biker. It's nothing to say, hey, let's go to Westville, get on our bikes, and go down to Sturbridge to Village Pizza for lunch or to Rapscallions for a drink. It's only a short bike ride, even before the actual trail is completed down Sturbridge Village Access Road. And I know, as my late husband and I used the rail trails, Norwottuck, Assawillicuk, East Bay, you get off where there's an access and you have lunch, you have ice cream. That's the whole point. Let's go to the East Bay Rail Trail and bike the 14 miles down to Quintal's Restaurant and have lunch. That's the whole point. And as far as the acorn things, I've actually been in foreign countries Off the top of my head, I can think Romania, Morocco, where somebody in my group has said, hey, there's a geocache in that town over there. Let's go look for it. People are going to come from all over and look for those acorns
It's true.
around the Riverlands. You want them to be able to access downtown and have lunch and look in the shops while they're looking for acorns. Because I know, I mean, I've seen it happen. You know, I was in Romania. Hey, there's a geocache over there. Let's all go look for it. We did. We didn't find it, but we went and looked. So people are going to come for these things. And whatever benefits the businesses, like Penny said, benefits the town. Also, I have a comment. Richard Bouvier, Crescent Way, Fiskdale, could not make this meeting tonight, but he asked me to relay to you the fact that living in Fiskdale, he sees youngsters riding their bikes up and down Route 20 all the time. It's extremely dangerous for kids to be riding their bikes up and down Route 20 with the traffic that's in Fiskdale. It would be really nice if they had a bridge that they could go across to all the bike trails in the Riverlands. It would be much safer, it would be a great place for them to ride, and they'd be out of the traffic. That's all. Thank you for listening to me.
Okay, no, thank you. All right, so right now, the way we stand is we voted 6-1 to take no action on this article 2 meetings ago. I forget, I don't have the date written down here. So what I would need is a motion to reconsider this article from anyone but Larry, because Larry was on the non-prevailing side last time, if you want to take this back up and consider it.
Kevin?
Okay?
Kevin?
Yes?
I do think that you have to reconsider it anyway because the numbers in the article are changing. And so you should reconsider. And if you want to take the same action, ultimately, that's fine. But the numbers are changing, so your vote
true.
is not, that article doesn't exist anymore.
Actually, the only thing that really changed is the number went lower. The explanation has changed and how it's going to be divvied up. Right?
Correct. You voted on a higher number, and now that number is
Well,
lower.
we voted against a higher number.
And then to also, it's lower now than it was before.
Yeah.
And also just for clarity, the select board will be dealing with this on the 7th. So they already supported this article. I would expect that they will not have an issue with changing the figures.
They haven't
but they
supported it
have
as far
not-
as I know.
But they have not taken action on this article yet.
Right.
But because we are in a time consideration here with the warrant and the posting, I would ask that you vote based on the recommendation of the CPC at this point, which is what the board will be voting on, because ultimately those articles come from the Community Preservation Committee.
Or you could leave the article as originally proposed with the $2.2 million number, which is perfectly fine, and the motions that are in recommendations from the other committees could reflect exactly where we are now, the lower number. And therefore,
That is not what we're going to do, though, because we have not posted the warrant yet, and so we're going to make it accurate so that there is the least amount of confusion at town meeting as possible. So we have the ability to change it. The select board is going to be reopening that warrant anyway on Monday night because they have to vote the water sewer articles. And so, again, we are going to change the numbers for the posting.
So you I think I heard you say you were going to make a motion of reconsideration.
do we have to reconsider the article then? This is a new article.
Well, we have action on it, so yeah. Make it, so is it going to first, do I have a second?
Hang on, that came from Chris?
Yes.
Was he here for the first one? He has to be one of the 6, right?
You have to be on the prevailing.
You have, okay.
have to
So
be
then
under the
I'll make a
prevailing.
motion to reconsider the article.
I'll second that.
There we go. Yes, and Jim.
Motion. Consider.
I have a comment.
Hang on a second. All right, first and second, go for it.
Smith.
My comment is this, as I read this now, this is no longer a majority vote at town meeting. If this gets recommended by, if the motion is to approve it
Because there's
by
time.
us, it's no longer a majority vote, it becomes a two-thirds vote.
It never
It
was.
was always,
borrowing.
it
Always
was
a two-thirds vote.
it was always a
always a
two-thirds
two-thirds
vote. Always
vote,
had
because any
borrowing.
borrowing
My
article is
misunderstanding.
two-thirds.
I thought that was a change. Sorry,
No, it
I'm
wasn't.
mistaken.
All right,
I'm sorry, this is a two-thirds vote?
yes.
Because of the bonding.
Town meeting, yeah.
Okay, so I have a first and a second, just for reconsideration, and that's all it's doing, we're just.
Or just opening it back up.
Opening it back up. So all those in favor of reconsideration?
Can I vote? I wasn't here.
Yeah, you can vote in this is tonight. So that's 8, and Mike, you're against?
Yeah,
8 to
fine.
1.
Oh, who's the one?
You.
Oh,
No,
who
I'm
voted for it?
for.
Oh, you're 4? Oh, 9 to nothing then.
Count.
Well, his hand came up after the whole thing, but I see Mike is taking his
Well, he was
notes.
confused.
No, it's just people online.
All right, so now we have no action from us at all, no, so it's starting over fresh with the new set of numbers. Now, the language we would have to vote is what is currently in the recommendation of the Select Board and recommendation of the Community Preservation Commission, which talks about, authorizing to borrow $634,000, $300,000 from Community Preservation Open Space Fund, and $1.2 million from the Community Preservation Act undesignated fund.
I respectfully disagree. Because we could vote no action, or we can vote something,
Oh, you could change
Similar to
it.
that,
No,
we'll
what
change
I'm
that.
saying is, that's the language approved by bond council.
yes.
If you're gonna go with the numbers the way they're currently configured,
I think you have
that's
to
the
vote
most.
on what the CPC brought forward. I think
Well,
that
we're
Alice-
making our recommendation. You have your recommendation here. Our vote is a recommendation. The article is, a very basic $200-something thousand. Our
Right.
motion is doesn't have to be exactly what you guys were, any other committee brought forward.
So what are you thinking of doing? You have something in mind? If
Well,
you're
let me
thinking
do
of-
it this way. Let me just test the waters here, but if you do this. One approach is 2 million's a lot of money, we stick with the no action. The other thing I threw out there was, funding a partial amount of this with the expectation that they can get funds from grants and other things like they've done in the past. So it doesn't appear to be a $2 million expenditure the way it is, it's a lower number. And one way to do that, again, for those who have the wording, I'll work off of the, it's the same, but I would change, a motion could be that the sum of, I'll start with $1.5 million, not the 2.1, is appropriated. And to meet this appropriation, I would scratch little I, that we borrow the $600,000, and then continue with, and to meet this appropriation, I, $300,000 from the Open Space Fund, $1.2 million from the undesignated fund, and then I would put up, provided that such funds may only be expended following acquisition of additional funding from grants and/or other sources sufficient to carry out the project. That shows we're gonna fund some money that helps you, show you've got money behind you to add to the grants. You got 500, you're a little bit short, you'll have to do a little bit of work to make up the difference there. So that's another approach that's kind of in the middle versus take the whole thing or take no action.
So in essence, you're asking them to commit to getting that grant funding?
Yeah, and if they can't get the rest of the funds from grants, they don't, these funds, although appropriated, aren't authorized for release and spent towards the project. If they get enough funds, they move forward with the money and go. Or they come back at a later date and say, we came up, $30,000 short, can we get 30,000 in addition to what we have and to close the gap and move the project forward? As is it, the $2 million project, I'm sure you'll get the $500,000, I'm sure you'll put the money back in, but it's just a different view and maybe a softer view on the total cost of the project.
I think Tom might
And
have
if
to
I had to spend,
answer
again, if I had to spend
that.
$2 million today, I would rather put it towards the $4 million gap in the trails versus this bridge. I'd move this down the road. As important as the Trails Committee and that it fits as part of the plan, I'd have to say my priority would be closing the gap in the existing trail versus adding this spur.
Tom, oh, sorry, go there.
But just a question, are we not looking at Article 8?
Yes.
And are you talking about this body amending
I'm
Article 8?
not amending the article. I'm offering our motion would be to only fund 1.5 million, with the provision that the funds
Can be obtained to complete the project.
be really spent only if they get additional funding to complete the project.
So you're introducing a contingency that would be satisfied depending on what the committees do or don't do? So is the idea to incentivize them? Well, I'm not sure what what's your underlying thought? See how high they can jump? Is that it?
It comes down to how much money do we want to spend from the town CPC funds for the project.
Well, I thought the town administrator a while ago used a wonderful analogy. It's like a Christmas club account. And you know what you're going to spend it for, and you keep putting it in, and the money that's in is not supposed to be frozen or kept in amber. It's supposed to be spent.
I agree.
Well,
And we spend
that's
a
what
lot of money.
Article 8 says, I
We spend a lot of money
think,
in trails
right
and open
now.
space, and we should start spending some of that on some other things as well. It will be spent, but not necessarily all on this.
You going to make a motion?
You want me to try that motion?
Well,
Let's see what
if you don't
happens.
make a motion, I'm going to make one right now, so you better hurry up.
You're going to make one similar to that or a different?
No, not at all like that, no.
Is anybody interested in my motion? I won't go through the efforts if there isn't much. Go ahead.
I'm going to make a motion that we approve the article.
No, read,
Oh, excuse me. Okay, right over here,
this.
this. That the sum of $2,134,000 is appropriated to pay the cost of designing and constructing a trail and bridge at 469 Main Street in order to connect to the trail to the parking lot located at 501 Main Street, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but it's that paragraph under the recommendation of the Community Preservation Committee. I'll make a motion.
Well, actually, wait, hang on.
Okay,
You got to read it into the record.
okay.
As stated in, and that's,
Yeah, but no one else has it.
Oh, okay, no one else has it, I'm sorry. Including the payment of all costs incidental related to, and that to meet this appropriation, one, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow $634,000 under and pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, parentheses 1, or pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town, therefore, to $300,000 shall be transferred from the Community Preservation Open Space Fund, and three, $1.2 million shall be transferred from the Community Preservation Act undesignated fund.
Okay,
Voted by the Preservation Committee, 700.
thank you.
We don't need to vote a piece, but that's it. Yep.
No, so LM, JW, and this is the bond council language.
This would have been my position 24 hours ago, but after reading this,
Well, I'd agree with
Just
you.
a comment,
It helps. The things that changed my mind, one is that they were able to explain where all the additional money costs came from all of a sudden. And the fact that there's a good chance that we won't be doing any borrowing, right? Because you're going to get 500,000 and maybe another second round of funding that'll take care of the borrowing costs altogether.
borrowing was the rub.
Yeah, the borrowing was the problem. All right, so I have a first and second to accept the language from bond council,
Larry and Jim?
Larry and Jim. Or Jim and Larry, sorry. Jim was first.
enough for me.
You did it
All right,
last.
any other questions or comments? All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those opposed? 5 to 4. Okay. 5 to, who's opposed? Mike,
So Mike
Ken,
and Mike.
Mike Hager. Oh, you both opposed now?
No, she was opposed before. I was always opposed. Her hand was up.
There's 4.
Opposed.
4, okay, those are the 4.
So that
5-4.
wasn't you, right, Ken?
Right.
The two Mikes, Kathy and MC.
It's MC. Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you for reviewing everything with us tonight
appreciate
and giving
you.
us this opportunity. We greatly
what do you
appreciate it.
You sold it.
No, we do appreciate the time, and it was a long night, you know. You guys have a lot of work to do, so thank you.
Thank you for your patience.
So that's Article 8. So now, so Barbara, are you still here? Because I can't see who's who's here.
I'm here.
So if I remember correctly, when we discussed earlier today, the CPC report that you sent to us contains this,
Is this computer still going?
no.
Okay.
Wait, oh no, that computer you still need going. You don't need, you gotta go back to. You need to go back to the actual meeting. Cut everybody off.
I never thought I'd change my mind on
We
that.
got into the same
I don't know. I got an earful yesterday from two people at my rotary about the way it was structured.
You were smart, you had the right idea, the right thing.
But
I don't know if I got it down, but I really smarter, I think.
I got my fingers crossed, and I think they're gonna be able to pull all the borrowing out of it. If they do that,
I think we're back
Goes
in
back there,
business.
right?
stay with it.
Well, they won't know that by time.
I know.
So, go back to my point, the new CPC report you sent to us today, that I sent out to everyone, that's with this action in it, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So then, now we need to go back to Article 2, which is the acceptance of the community preservation report. And Mike, just so you know, we know the yellow here, the language you're questioning about thing, I did ask about that, and it turns out that this has been the language we've been using since the CPC, and a lot of the other towns just use one article to do all the expenditures from the report. That's why it's in here, but I think Barbara's gonna be checking next year to take the appropriation language out of this. Because we do all the appropriations
One thing to be
separately.
consistently wrong year after year, I guess, but, I just wonder why
We were consistently wrong
we
year
have
after year.
an article to appropriate, but, all right, we'll take it up next year.
Right, Barbara?
Yep.
Thank you. All right, so take the color out of that. So can I have a motion to accept Article 2 as written?
So moved.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second,
Mike Hager,
AW.
MH. All right,
The only thing I would note at the end of, and Penny had left, I would have given it to her, Trey. There's a thank you to Barbara for preparing this for the finance committee. I think that report is for town as a whole, not strictly to the finance committee, but we'll accept it the way it is.
okay. It's a good point. Any further questions or comments? All those in favor? All right, so that's 9-0. All right, so get rid of that yellow. Now, we do have another article we need to act on that we seem to have skipped throughout the entire process. And that would be Article 20. Right?
Yes, we do.
Huh?
You say we did?
No, we didn't do betterment, believe it or not, it's nowhere in our records. We did capital improvement, but for somehow or another, we just managed to skip the betterment one.
So how did they get that vote?
What, if it's in yellow, we didn't act on it.
Oh, maybe I'm looking at the wrong version.
You gotta open it in Word.
Oh, yeah, and Word gives you the highlights.
Oh, okay.
So, this is the betterment fund, and you can see how, it's the other half of the 1/3 we collect from hotel motel and what it's being spent on.
Make a motion that we,
Can I have a question? What does protective firefighting gear have to do with this? Shouldn't that be in the fire department?
No, well, public safety is one of the things they can spend the funds on in betterment.
Protective firefighting gear, that's specific to a fire department, right?
Yeah.
Gear?
Well, you can see the department that the funds are being allocated to.
Left-hand column.
yes, there are some operating-related costs in here. Sometimes we use betterment funds to purchase a cruiser or some other vehicle here. But it is a way, let's go back to the CPC analogy. There's a bucket of funds that we have that can be used for four purposes that we need to spend it, public safety being one of those, and there's a way to fund some of those quote-unquote operating costs outside of the budget, where we could use a little bit of relief, and we have some additional sources of funds to do that. If we put it in the operating budget, now we gotta go back to the operating budget and strip out dollars from other departments to cover this cost.
Yeah, okay. Starting next year with free cash and.
This isn't free cash.
No, starting next year with free cash and other aspects of what we're using today, which may be aberrations to the budget and where the numbers and should be, operating budgets and the like. Next year, some of this should go back into the departments, right? Isn't that what we're talking about?
No.
Just free cash. We're just not gonna use free
This
cash.
is free cash.
I know, but I'm saying, just culturally and philosophically, to get the budget and monies in the departments they belong, not spreading them out every which way.
That is the overall goal, but where we have some additional funding sources available and constraints in the overall budget, that we can fund some of those items using other mechanisms, we take advantage of, this being one of those. And again, if we wanted to take all of these public safety things and put them in the budget, that budget is tight as it is every year, we'd have to reduce budgets in other departments. So rather than have to reduce budgets in other departments that are all have their own constraints, we use this mechanism to fund these particular activities.
That you ask proves that it's disclosed. Nobody's hiding anything.
Well, I'm not saying it's hiding, I'm not saying it's being hidden, I never said that. I'm saying, is it in the right department?
Yes.
Exactly in the right department.
Public safety is a legitimate use
Expense.
of betterment funds.
Yes.
Read the statute.
Well,
And
it's,
betterment money does not go back to the general fund if it's not spent. It gets rolled back into betterment. So it's not that it goes to a free cash pot of money if we didn't spend it there.
If I could also add to that, we set up, the one you're talking about specifically, the protective firefighting gear, which is the turnout gear for the firefighters. Several years ago, I'd have to go back and look to see when we started this, but we did this deliberately because the cost for turnout gear is quite expensive. It's replaced every 10 years. And so we thought that this was a prudent use of this betterment fund to fund this amount, which $4,500, I'm sorry, no, how much, $9,000 a year, so that when in fiscal 2033, when we have to replace the turnout gear of the department, we would have adequate funds. So this money builds up each and every year so that we will have adequate funds in 2023. And so what that does is it uses, as everyone just said, this is a purpose that was, when this special legislation was voted back in, I believe it was 1986 or somewhere around there. Public safety was one of the reasons, and so we are using this deliberately for some things like that. We do the same thing with being able to build up a pot of money for sidewalk replacement, because what we found over the years was that the amount of money that we were budgeting was not adequate to be able to get a contractor to come out and replace small sections of sidewalks. So again, deliberately, we are funding an amount every single year. And as you go through, if you go to the tab of your budget book on Betterment, you'll see other things that again, wayfinding streetscape improvements. There's certain things where we're actually, those are not just once a year expenditures and then gone. They're reoccurring and they're for a specific purpose.
Understand. I mean, going through all the list, like you said, sidewalks, I agree to betterment. I just happened to see this and said, again, okay.
Yeah, but the cost of the turnout gear right now is $4,500 for one set of turnout gear, and they will all have to be replaced in 10 years. And then again, so that $9,000 would give us adequate money at 10 years to be able to replace the turnout gear, and then we continue so that 10 years from that date, which is 2033, the money will be there again.
So the entirety of the turnout gear is funded through Betterment?
Yes. And if there was an opportunity to, like if a state grant became available, or, we were able to get a grant opportunity, we would take advantage of that.
So since we went there, Barbara, I got some educational questions. So this article's for $210,000. If we only spend $200,000 because some of these items here came in a little less expensive than we planned, the $10,000 gets turned back to Betterment, correct?
No, the money actually goes back to the STA and Betterment, and then gets redistributed.
So we got $210,000 out of the pot. We only spent 200. The 10 goes back into the pot, and we don't get the full 10 back. We get our share.
It gets redivided again.
Redivided. Okay.
Correct. Every year it's redivided.
And do you have
with the new money? So the closeout plus the new money gets divided.
So if we don't
But again,
spend it,
STA also turns back money, so it's the same thing.
okay, I thought they would spend all of theirs and we're the only ones turn it back. Okay,
not
that's consistent with what I thought, thank you.
It depends on the
Can you-
year.
Do you have to spend it all in the fiscal year, or it sounds like we were saying here is, for this piece, you can carry this line item over into future fiscal years until you ultimately decide you no longer need the money and turn it back?
So the ones that I just talked about that we are deliberately doing, a portion every year, unless there's a really good reason why you didn't get to your betterment project, that was just a one-year project, you would not be able to carry it over. But if there was, I'd have to relook at this list, but let's say, there was something on here.
Special events, overtime, fire, they may not spend all of that.
That's gonna close out. They don't not get to carry that forward. That's just for the fiscal year. But if it was something, I don't know, let's use AEDs for an example. Let's say there was some reason why the AEDs were ordered, but they didn't come in. Then we would encumber those funds like we would do in another budget. But again, there has to be a reason, and a reason isn't just because you didn't get to it.
This is really intended to be a use it or lose it. We want to use it for the designated activity within this fiscal year. It's not really meant to carry over and so forth. And if you don't use it this year, it goes back and we give up our, we redivide it. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I'll make a motion that we recommend the town meeting approve the article as written.
Okay. Now, who's that over here? I'm sorry. Let's see, okay.
I'm like two women, you can't distinguish ourselves. I know I have a low voice, but.
That's okay. I'm just gonna be quiet.
Like, we're all fired.
So, I have a first and a second to approve the article as written. Any further conversation? All those in favor? Opposed? 7-2.
7-2.
Mike McGlone and Ken Talentino. And one thing I forgot to note, but I know we all knew it, but we should make sure it's included in the minutes, is that we were working from the file tonight. The warrant file was warrant ATM 2025-0402.
2025-402.
just to make sure that that's. Okay. That's saved. I think we're through the whole thing there. So that's Article 20. Anyone else see any yellow in there? The yellows would be stuff like, I don't have any votes from the Board of Selectmen, and if we don't get a vote from the Board of Selectmen, I'm just going to put in recommendation be provided at a town meeting. So that's how that's going to work.
Their recommendation?
Yeah, because, I mean, I'm supposed to get something, they're supposed to act on it Monday night, but there's no guarantee they will. So,
Do we have to revote the school bus article or not? Because they said they were with.
I thought we took no action
Oh,
on
we
it.
took?
Yeah.
Oh,
We did,
sorry.
we did. We reconsidered it and.
Took
then-
no action. I thought we did that right after.
Yeah,
she was
we
here.
did.
Of course, I didn't take any notes on that while we were doing it.
No, you're right, we did. It just came up.
I assume the word reconsidered, and
Yeah.
Oh, there it is, yeah.
this has been rescinded per Deb Boyd.
Yeah. All right, any other yellows here? I just want to make sure we don't miss something that we should have acted on, like 20. There were some other changes too. You saw the Article 8 was the language change. There's a couple places there were periods. On all of the, most of the changes that were made to this warrant are at the end in the planning board articles, in that they were all, now we needed to be required 2/3 votes, so that starts with Article 36. And some of them were rewritten by town council, and we just changed the language, but it doesn't really change the intent. And I know you were going to talk with Jean, Barbara. Did you get a chance to get a blessing from her?
I will in the morning.
Perfect.
I do have, the Article 8 that we were talking about, in the box, just FYI, the last sentence in the box says the town has applied for a
Yeah, it's spelled wrong, 500,000.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. Right. Jim has already pointed it out to me, and I have to.
You beat me.
Whispered it to him. I didn't want to embarrass him.
So I was saying a 50,000.
It's okay, you know, I'm
500 or 50,000.
just as bad as anybody else.
It's missing 3 zeros and a decimal point.
Okay.
All right, what's going on here? Let me get rid of all of it. I'll deal with it at home. It's not going away. All right, so we have the minutes from March 27th.
They have a couple of notes on it.
Okay.
On page 2, halfway down, it says J.W. made a motion. The end of that sentence as written, XX seconded the motion. I don't know anybody by the name of XX.
I wasn't here,
What
Melissa was looking-
article
her
was
notes
it? I can
weren't
tell
clear as
you.
to who made it.
Oh, that's X.
Article 17.
Oh, I
So
can
we
tell
need
you.
to know
Hang
who
on.
seconded the motion.
I got-
So there's no one here with an R or a last name with a
It was Mike
G.
McGlone. It was MM.
MM.
M, okay. Okay,
So instead of XX, it should be MM. And I had one other one. At the bottom of that same page, under Article 33, it says, can be used in emergencies without having to go obtain town meeting approval. I think the word "go" should be gone, without having to obtain town meeting approval to spend.
Where is this?
Strike the word
Last
go.
sentence on page 2.
What yours is
Article
on?
33.
I guess it depends what you use, because that's in the middle of page 3 for me.
Oh, okay. Well, Article
Made
33.
motion to recommend that the town
Article
vote to
32?
approve.
33.
33, that's what, yep.
It says, go obtain town meeting approval.
So strike the word go.
Yep.
Drop the word go. Strike the word go. That's all I had. Other than that, I didn't see anything else.
Okay. So do I have a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
No move.
Second.
Oh, MCP and KN. We get a twofer there.
XX absentee.
And I think I got them in the right order, without even having to look. All right. Any other discussion on the adoption of the meeting minutes as amended? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed and abstaining? 8 to 0 to 1. All right. 82021. And then, any new business?
I don't think I said that.
I know it's wicked late, so I'm not even, old business? All right, public access, and our public has
think your public
abandoned
left.
us.
Good crowd.
So there's nothing, and I'll take a motion for adjournment. Mike? No one else wants to
second.
leave? Oh, there we go.
Thank you, Robin. Thank you, Barbara.
Yeah.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate your time.
Well, good night.
Mike and MC.